The incident happened around the middle of 2003. The person involved in the incident was named Rudra. Rudra told me the incident the way it happened, and I'm trying to write it down as organized as possible. I am a very good cricketer, but only at the local level. Most of the time, boys from neighboring areas used to hire me, though only within the locality. At that time, I was studying in the 8th grade. I paid very little attention to my studies. My love was for the bat and ball. I never studied. I was a student only in name, not in reality. I was always busy playing cricket. Because of this, even if my parents and elder brother said nothing, my middle brother used to scold me a lot. When I was alone, he used to beat me severely. There were many times I lost consciousness. However, I don't want to talk about all that. But I must say one thing. I was very brave, which everyone in the area knew to some extent. Actually, the word fear was not even in my personal dictionary. On the night the incident happened, I was lying in my room. Suddenly, there was a knocking sound at my door. Since it was 10 p.m. and my house was in a remote village, I went to the door and opened it. I saw a 15-year-old boy asking me, "Are you Rudra?" I replied, "Yes, I am Rudra." That boy asked me if I could go to play cricket at Pitobo village tomorrow. I said, "Of course. Wherever cricket is, I will go by any means." The boy told me to come tomorrow. There was a night match organized at the Pitobo ground, and I had to play in their team. It is worth mentioning that Pitobo has a large school ground, electricity, and is quite a developed area. There's also a large cemetery and a big crematorium there. The capital is Pitobo, but there was no market there, so the road to Pitobo was always deserted. I asked the boy, "I don't recognize you." He said, "My house is in that area. I heard from someone that you play cricket very well, so I came to you. If you come to play, I will pay you 50 taka. I will pay even if you lose. If you win, I will definitely pay." I asked about the playing time. The boy replied, "At 8 p.m. I said, "How will we play at night? I have never played cricket at night before. Night games are on TV, but how will it be possible in a village?" He gave no answer, only said to try to come on time. Anyway, the next evening I started my journey to Pitobo on a bicycle, humming songs. It was slightly foggy, and I was thinking how we would play in such fog at night. After crossing 2 kilometers, I reached an old bamboo bridge. There were no houses nearby, and it was surrounded by sand. Since it was winter, there was no water in the river, though in the rainy season there would be much water. On the bridge, I saw an elderly man of about 50 standing in the middle. I rang my bicycle bell, but he didn't move aside. I had to stop my bicycle. Before I could say anything, the man asked if I was going to Pitobo. I said, "Yes, uncle." He told me not to go that way. A man had died in the Pitobo cemetery, and the body was to be buried there. He warned me not to go, or I would face great harm. He said no game would happen there today. I did not pay attention to his words. If I had, maybe my life wouldn't have had such a tragic state. Then I started cycling again. After some distance, I heard a voice saying, "I forbade you not to go. Why don't you listen to me?" I stopped my bicycle to see who was speaking, but no one was visible, only the voice saying not to go today. I got a little scared. The road was deserted, the night cold, and the fog moderate. Without thinking much, I continued cycling. After a while, I reached the area, but there was nothing there, no arrangement, only eerie silence and occasional fox howls. I was surprised and thought that the man was right. Thinking all this, I decided to get on my bicycle and return home. At that moment, the boy named Rudra called me from behind and asked, "Where are you going?" I said, "There are no players. There is no light here. Where will the game be played?" The boy said, "Come with me." Then I said, "Why are you teasing me? I won't be able to go play." The boy looked at me with big eyes and said, "You must go." The boy forced me to go with him. On the way, I asked him where he was taking me. He didn't say anything, just said, "Let's go." On the road, I asked many questions, but he gave no proper answers and only said, "Come with me." I decided to act a little clever so he could not put me in any danger. I said, "The bicycle is over there. I'll go get it." He told me to stay there. I did not listen to him at all and scolded him. The boy said, "All right, bring your bicycle." I quickly went to the bicycle, thinking to leave quickly. As I got on a bicycle and was about to leave, I saw the boy suddenly appear in front of me. He asked, "Where are you going?" I said, "I was coming to you." He said, "Don't lie. The consequences will be terrible. Come with me." By then, I knew some paranormal thing was about to happen to me. Still, I gathered courage and set off. I asked the boy many questions, but no answer. He just kept saying, "Come with me." After going some distance, suddenly, in the blink of an eye, an elegant house appeared, a different world. I was amazed. Such a house could not be imagined in that area. Anyway, I went inside the house and was really stunned. I had never seen such a beautifully decorated room, and decorating a room like this was beyond my imagination. The little boy took me to his father's room and told his father, "You asked for a brave boy. This boy is very brave. Look how brave he is." By then, there was no trace of fear on my face. The old man said to his father this and left. The elderly man then said to me, "Listen, there is nothing to fear. You are human, we are jinn." Hearing this, I felt the ground beneath my feet slip away. My hands and feet trembled with fear. I said, "I won't harm you." He said, "I will give you a task. I have been searching for a brave boy for a few days. This task is very important." Then he began to talk about the task. He said, "A few days ago, a man in this village died. He was buried in this area's cemetery. Tonight, the 7th day will be completed. So tonight, you must bring that corpse out of the grave." Hearing this, I lost consciousness. When I regained it, the elderly man was standing in front of me. I cried, "Uncle, please let me go home. My mother will worry a lot." He paid no attention and angrily said, "You must take the corpse. Come quickly." There was no way out. I begged him a lot, but he did not listen. He said, "Look, there's a prayer mat there. Stand on it." Even after crying, he did not listen. I had to stand on the prayer mat. Before I could comprehend anything, I was at the cemetery of Korhat. Seeing it again made me faint. I thought of running away, but how? The bicycle is at that house. Forget the bicycle. I ran. At that moment, a voice said, "Where are you going? If you don't bring out the corpse, today you will become the corpse." I ignored everything and ran, but stumbled and fell somewhere. Looking around, I saw dirt all around. I screamed, but no sound came from my mouth. Looking carefully, I saw I was lying in a grave. Then a voice said, "If you can dig out the corpse, I will let you return home with honor. Otherwise, you will be buried alive in the grave." I said, "I agree." The voice said, "Try to get up." As instructed, I got up from the grave. Upstairs, I saw the corpse wrapped in a white cloth, the same grave I had been lying in. Seeing this, I fainted again. When I recovered, I was still there. The voice came again, "You must take the corpse. If you refuse, you will be buried alive with the corpse." I said, "Tell me what I have to do." Suddenly, 5 tall men dressed in white Punjabis came and stood before me. They said, "Do as we say." They gave me a hoe and showed me a place. "Dig this spot." I started digging as they instructed, although I felt like I wasn't in this world. I was very scared, but still forced myself to dig. After finishing the grave, they told me to get into the grave and then lift the corpse onto my shoulder by its waist. I said I couldn't do it alone. They replied that if I couldn't, then lie down on the corpse. I pleaded, "There are 5 of you standing just watching. Please help me." They said, "If we were human, you wouldn't need help. Do as we say quickly." What else could I do? I lifted the corpse by the waist onto my shoulder. At that moment, a very pleasant scent was coming from the corpse, and it seemed freshly buried, although it had been buried 7 days ago. I tried to climb up carrying the heavy corpse, but struggled a lot. Finally, I reached the top with great difficulty. Several people were standing with the coffin and told me to put the corpse inside it. I obeyed. Then I saw many people dressed in white Punjabis and caps, standing in rows like a prayer line. For people carried the coffin to another place where the final funeral would be held. They left the coffin there for the funeral. Many people gave speeches at the start of the funeral, but everything was in Arabic, so I understood nothing. After the speeches, the boy's father led the funeral prayer. At this moment, I felt no fear because although everyone was a jinn, perhaps Allah helped me overcome my fear. After the funeral, they told me to put the corpse back into the grave. I struggled but did it alone. Nobody helped. One person said, "Father, we have no power to touch any dead human body. That's why we can't help." After hearing that, I alone put the corpse in the grave. Countless people around me recited prayers. Thinking back, it felt like some invisible power was helping me, because otherwise, it would have been impossible for me to take a dead body out of one grave and put it back alone at night. What 6 or 7 people normally do, I don't know how I manage alone. I buried the corpse alone by covering it with soil. After finishing, I looked around, but everyone who had been standing around me had suddenly disappeared. Not a single person remained. From that moment on, fear took hold of me. Fear and more fear. Fear started that evening. I thought there was no use in fearing if I was alive and tried to stay calm. At that time, the jinn from afar pointed with a finger and said, "Go a little forward. Your bicycle is kept nearby. Take it and go home. Allah will reward you someday for this good deed." After these words, no more noises came. I went forward a little and saw my bicycle leaning against a tree. I went to the bicycle, got on, and thought about going home. Then again a voice came, "Don't tell anyone what happened to you tonight. If someone finds out, you will be harmed." I waited a while. When no more sound came, I left. The danger seemed to never leave me. The incident could have ended here, but it didn't. Long ago, I told you about the bridge, and after reaching near that bridge, the old man I mentioned earlier appeared in front of me. He, who had forbidden me to go to Chor Hat, was now standing on the opposite side, saying, "Despite being forbidden, why did you go to the Chor Hat?" I said I didn't realize and made a mistake. He told me, "You have no forgiveness. Tonight is your last night." Suddenly, he transformed into that old man, changing his shape, losing his head, with his eyes on his chest. He let out a terrible scream, rushed toward me, and said, "This is your last night. Prepare to die, human child." The horror of those words is beyond anyone's understanding, and no one else could grasp how terrifying it was. Witnessing those frightening words and scene, I fainted, and along with that, my dark night of life ended. The next day, I found myself in my bed with my parents sitting nearby and many people in the house. Great sorcerers from far and wide had come to see me, waiting for my consciousness to return. They told my parents not to ask me anything once I regained my senses, do as they say. Without questions, my parents told the sorcerers directly about my recovery. 4 of them came to me and asked, "How did you go onto the bridge?" I explained everything to the sorcerers, who were left stunned. I asked them how I managed to do all that, how a 14-year-old boy could accomplish such feats. Anyway, the sorcerers decided to find out the reason for these incidents. They asked someone to bring a piece of cotton, and after searching, they found a 25-year-old youth whom they decided to possess with a jinn, reciting many mantras and filling his body with a jinn. When they were sure they could summon the jinn, they asked it why these incidents happened to this boy. At first, the jinn hesitated and said it didn't want to reveal because it was too powerful and feared harm from them. At that moment, the sorcerers mercilessly beat the jinn with a thick stick and threatened to trap it in a bottle, which made it agree to speak. The jinn told them that 7 days earlier, a man in the Banskali area had died, a very good person who always recited prayers and never missed namaz. During his funeral, the imam made a mistake which caused many problems for him in the grave. Since he was such a good person, the jinns decided to perform the proper funeral rites again. But there was a problem. Jinns could never exhume a body. They needed a brave person, and after much searching, they found Rudra and managed to secretly take him to Chor Hat Cemetery. However, those who used Rudra did not harm him. A bad jinn living in the bridge wanted the funeral not to be performed again, so tried to kill Rudra, but the good jinns came to his rescue and guarded him until morning. Because of them, Rudra is alive today. Otherwise, that evil jinn would have killed him. They prevented his death, and thus, Rudra remains alive. Afterward, the sorcerers removed the jinn from the young man's body, gave me some talismans, and gradually I regained my normal state.